So you got bit. Now what? On today's horribly edited video, I am going to be talking about what you do after you get bitten. Now, for some of us, getting bit is no big deal. It has happened enough times that we know how to manage it and know how to move forward. But for those of you who are not as accustomed to getting nipped or bit by snakes specifically, is what we're going to be focusing on, then this video is for you. I am not a huge fan of getting bit. I do take precautions to prevent it as much as possible, but it has happened. It has happened several different times. It has happened in several different ways. So there's a couple different ways that a snake will bite you. Generally it's out of defensiveness, so they'll tag you with an open mouth and not bite down and wrap. The bite down and wrap thing is a food bite. So I have had both happen from several of my own animals. Snakes will be snakes. So let's chat about it. This is culprit numero uno. Some might be surprised that Shy is actually the animal who's bitten me the most around here. Shouldn't be too surprising, honestly, because he is a retic. He is food motivated. He is very... Why are you so sploot right now? Now, the first thing to keep in mind if you ever get bit, or when you get bit, generally, if you keep animals like snakes, there is a very good chance that you will get bit at some point along the way. Remember, it is nothing to do with you. Do not take it personally. These animals will not bite you without a reason. And that brings up another important topic, is deciphering that reason. So generally, if you can recognize why the animal bit you, then approaching them for future interaction can be a little bit easier. Now, Shy here is a very good boy, even though he's bit me a few different times. Now, the nice thing about him is I grew up with him, so I have had him since he was a tiny little, whoops, zoomy, sorry bud, tiny little noodle. So I found that when one of my animals bites me that I have grown up with, essentially, I've had them since they were tiny, I find it a little bit easier to just drop back into interacting with them how I did before they bit me. He did bite me recently. Last week he tagged me on the thumb pretty good. It was a food bite, so he bit and wrapped, and then after a couple minutes he realized, oh wait, you're not edible, I'm going to let go. And everything was hunky-dory. The bite has already healed. It only takes, about 48 hours to heal a bite like that from a snake his size. And the reason he bit me was because he picked up some residual feeder smell exploring Aries enclosure. So I had Aries enclosure open. Shy was exploring and went into his enclosure and just smelled something that smelled like food. And when I reached in to get him, because I was in a hurry, so again, it was my fault, he whipped around and got me. Because again, snakes are opportunistic eaters. So if they are in food mode and they feel you moving, they will bite you. Just is going to happen. I do apologize. I look like crap because I am just back from the gym and I have incredibly sensitive skin. So I get these red marks with very little pressure. So I always look like I have like a low-key hickey. It's not. It's just my skin being overly sensitive because it's a pain in the butt. One of the other things to keep in mind is these animals are not going to just go after you for the sake of biting you. They're not going to chase you. They're not going to attack you. At least not the animals that I keep. Not that I have ever personally seen. I keep retics and boas. And any bite that I have ever gotten in the past has been the fault of my own approach and not taking the necessary precautions to ensure food mode is off and ensure that they weren't feeling defensive. Now, knowing your animal's behavior is really important to prevent getting bitten, but also if you do get bit, it helps you more easily identify why you got bit in the first place, and then better be able to, you're able to better pick up on their nonverbal cues in the future to help avoid getting bitten again in the future. So let's move on over to, this is April O'Neil. She's probably given me the worst bite that I've ever gotten. She has food bit me. She's just under 8 feet. So this girl is a wild child. She knows the sound of her lock being unlocked. She often, she's growing like crazy, so I think she's just hungry a lot of the times, even though she's plenty chunky. She is not being underfed by any means, but she's just very food driven. She's a very food driven retic, which is very common. But see that? She's like, whoa, hand, what's going on? So the way that I work with her, especially since we moved her on top of Stella's enclosure. She used to be a little bit lower down. And ever since we moved her up high, she's been more food mode and a little bit more on edge. And I simply think it's because she's about 2 feet higher than she used to be. So that's another thing to keep an eye on, is all those little subtle changes that seem really small to us can be kind of a huge impact on them, and it will show up in their behavior. So because she kind of shifted in that behavior after we moved her up, I actually get her out a little bit differently now. So I have this step ladder. I refer to it as April's step ladder now because it's no longer mine. She uses it more than I do. And I'm gonna show you my approach to getting her out. Hi, sweetie. So this is her being food pacey. I just touched the glass and I missed it because I wasn't filming, but she struck the glass, or the plexiglass. So this is what I'm going to do right now is open it up. I bet you anything she's gonna come out hot as soon as now I open up from this side, so that way my hand and anything warm is away from her when she comes out. Hi, honey. So she is very excited right now. So I take a step back and I just let her process. And she's starting to slowly figure out that the ladder being there means that she's not getting fed. Now, she's one girl I will generally have the snake hook handy just in case. Now she's just getting a drink. She is such a quirky thing. So she's calmed down now, but I'm going to give it a minute and see if she'll come out on her own so I can show you how I make initial contact with her when she's out of her enclosure. You're such a social drinker. You're so silly. Oh. What did you do? She will very often just get a sip of water after I open her door. I don't know why. She's just quirky. Hi, honey bun. So you can see her body language. She's already chilled out a little bit. Now, if I stick a warm hand in there, she could very well drop back into food mode, which she has done before. I'm just gonna see if I can get her to come out. Hi, honey bun. Come on. Then come out. I know I'm standing on your ladder. We may wind up moving her back down to the lower spot that we had her before, because she does definitely seem to be more kind of on edge being up high. One of the most effective ways of interacting with an animal after they've bit, or even if they've just struck at you as you're working to get them out of the enclosure, is to not let that stop you from getting them out. Because as soon as you go into being afraid of them mode, that will affect your relationship with them and your ability to interact with them comfortably. Hi, sweetie. You want to sniff the camera? Sniff the camera? You're an excellent camera sniffer. Good girl. And you can use tools like the camera, because there's an infrared on the camera that she can see that I cannot. And now she's wanting to climb on top. Hi, honey pie. So now she has made contact with my hand. I just left my hand there and let her land in it. And now she's very chill and she's being a very good girl. So now, as soon as I have both hands, I'm using one to hold my phone, I can get her out. Ugh, awkward. Now she's coming out. She took her sweet time, so I was doing some work studying stuff. So sometimes it just takes a little bit of time, but especially in the case where they've developed a little bit more cage defensiveness or a little bit stronger food drive, this is one of the ways in which I interact with them. So when she's out, like, she's fine. No food drive. No concern of her biting. Could she still bite? Of course, but her body language is such that she's not showing any indication of food drive or defensiveness. Just mildly irritated that I am bothering her exploration time. Sorry, sweetie. So the moral of the story here is it's similar to falling off a horse, right? We've all heard that saying. You just got to jump back on. With these guys, especially if you're working with the bigger constrictors, definitely take your precautions, really get to know your animal's behavior, and that makes kind of diving back into that interaction way easier. So yeah, that's kind of my very abbreviated, I guess, approach to how I work with my animals post getting bitten by them. It's not the end of the world by any means, and that's how I personally process and carry on working with my animals post bite. So all of us have a different way that we do that. So if your way is a little bit different, just use the way that works for you, just like everything else. And if you have a different way, comment it below. I'm really curious to hear about different techniques and approaches. And yeah, that's about it for this week. Thanks so much for watching. I will catch you for next week's horribly edited video. Bye. She's really my most needy snake. She's very clingy when she's out. Huh, you just thought I was food once. Silly girl.